Okay, good afternoon, Form 2. So we're going to finish up on our vegetables this week, and then we're going to have a little look at salads and soups and sauces. Okay, so let's get started. So in terms of our vegetables, we're going to start looking at buying vegetables. So you'll see a lot of similarities here between fruit and vegetables in terms of buying and storing and preparation and the effects of cooking, etc. So again, I'm going to just point out the main things, buying fruit that's in season and vegetables that are in season, and medium-sized are the best. And there's a link there between season and economy. So getting back to the dietetic value, linking those two together, when you buy something that's in season, it is going to be at its cheapest and at its best. Okay, so moving on to organic vegetables and fruit. Now, the word organic means fruit or vegetables that are grown without the use of any chemical fertilizers or pesticides. So they are supposed to be a lot healthier to eat and a lot more natural. But with that comes a higher price. So that's something that you need to be aware of as well. So they are more expensive. And then you would tend to buy them, say, for example, the carrots with the roots, a lot of the roots still intact, plus a lot of soil, etc. So a lot more natural, nicer flavour, but more expensive. So just looking there and being aware of the positives and the negatives. Okay, we're going to move on now to storing. The same as our fruit, remove from the packaging. So when you leave something in packaging, it's going to sweat, and that will encourage the growth of your mold as well. And when something is moldy in your packet or your fruit bowl or your vegetable drawer, it'll give off spores and encourage the multiplication of your bacteria and your mold. Sorry, not your bacteria, but your mold in terms of vegetables, okay? So it'll cause other ones to go off as well. Okay, moving on then to preparation of vegetables. So the main thing in this slide is to use a sharp knife. If you use a blunt knife for chopping your vegetables, you are going to release the enzyme oxidase, which will destroy the vitamin C. So always a sharp knife, and then don't steep your vegetables in water because that will encourage the loss of vitamin C. It's a water-soluble vitamin. Okay, the effects of cooking we'll move on to now. So again, loss of vitamin C, so eat raw where possible. So your raw carrots, try and eat as many raw vegetables as you can. So encourage children to eat them as part of snacks as well and from an early age. Starch cooks and becomes digestible, so thinking there of your potatoes in particular, but looking back to our fruit as well and linking it all together, when you have an underripe fruit such as an underripe banana that's green, it's very starchy, very difficult to digest, and it's not sweet. It's quite hard and quite firm. When you move on to your yellow banana, the starch starts to convert to a fructose, which is a sugar, and it will get a little bit more ripe, and it will get a little bit sweeter and a little bit softer. And then when it goes to the brown stage, it's going to be at its sweetest. It may not be edible, some people don't like that, but it's at its sweetest, and then it's very, very soft as well, okay? So just being aware of that. Cellulose then and texture will soften. So the what and the why. So how does the texture soften? The cellulose softens, okay? The what and the why, very important there for your exam technique. And then moving into processing. So the main areas of processing are freezing, so your frozen peas, your frozen sweet corn. Canning, so your tinned peas, your tinned beans, your tinned carrots, your tinned corn. These are just examples. Dried or dehydration, where all of the moisture is removed because heat is added. So your dried peas. Now an example there would be marrow fat peas, and if you ask your grandparents, a lot of them would have been used to marrow fat or dried broad beans or peas years ago. Dried beans, lentils and dried potato, so that would be like your smash. It's a dehydrated potato, and you just add water to it, okay? And then when you're looking at the effects of processing, the main things to be aware of here are, you refer to the effects on the colour, the effects on the flavour, the effects on the texture, and the effects on the nutritive value, and that'll mainly include your water-soluble vitamins B and C. You also need to comment here on the effects on enzymes and microorganisms, okay? So your bacteria, your enzymes, how are they affected? Are they killed? Are they inactivated? So freezing will inactivate, it will not kill. Boiling, blanching canning, high temperatures, 120 degrees Celsius approximately in a can, that will kill the enzymes. It will kill the bacteria, most of them, unless they're spore forming. So just to be aware of that and getting the terminology correct. Are they killed? Are they inactivated? Okay. And it's just as important to say that something is affected or it isn't affected as it is to say it is affected. So if there's no texture change, it's just as important to say that as not. Another thing to be aware of there is if you're canning something. So if fruit is canned in syrup, that will increase the calorie content because syrup is a sugar and water solution. And if something is canned in brine, so if vegetables are canned in brine, that is a salt and water solution. So that will increase the sodium. Okay, let's move on to our salads, okay? So looking here at sort of our summertime salads. So a lot of that slide there is self-explanatory, your vegetables, your fruits, and your dressings then that go along with salads, okay? Your vinaigrette and your mayonnaise. The nutritive value then that's linking back to your fruit and your vegetables because salads incorporate fruit and vegetables. And I'm thinking there in particular of something like a Waldorf salad. You would have celery in it, which is a vegetable. You will have fruit in it, such as apple. Okay, so it brings it all together, and oftentimes salads will have a mixture of fruit and vegetables. Now we're going to move into the last part for this week, which is our soups and our sauces. Okay, so we're getting to the time of year now where a good hearty soup is welcome. It's a lovely snack. It's a very versatile food, very nourishing, and soups are very widely available. Okay, so if we are making a fresh soup, we will make it using a liquid called a stock. Now, a stock is a well-flavoured liquid, and a stock can be made using beef bones to make a beef stock. It can be made using chicken bones to make chicken stock, fish bones to make fish stock, or vegetables to make a vegetable stock. Alternatively, you can buy a stock cube or a stock pot, which are the convenience method. They're highly salted, they're highly seasoned, but they are very, very useful to have in your cupboard. Okay, and remember that soups, they're very useful as a starter, as a snack, as a lunch, useful for children, useful for elderly. Why? Because they're easy to digest and they can be served hot or cold. Now, so just getting back there to the basis of a soup, which is a good stock. So let's go back to what I've just said about a stock. It's a well-flavoured liquid and it's used as a base for a soup or a sauce. And it's made by putting the bones of the animal. So for example, if you want to make a chicken stock and you had a fresh chicken for Sunday dinner, you could use those bones on Sunday evening or Monday, put water in with your bones into a stock pot, add in some onion, leek, celery, whatever vegetables you had, just to help with flavour. And you would bring that to the boil and you would simmer it for 2 to 3 hours, and then you would strain it and you would have a beautiful, well-flavoured liquid, because what happens is the extractives come out from the bones and flavour the liquid. And you would use that then to flavour your soup. Okay? Now, the reasons for including soup in the diet. So why would you include soup in the diet? Okay, so good long answers here. Can be served hot in winter, useful as a snack, starter or lunch for X, Y and Z. Okay, don't forget to link it to a group of people. Who is this useful for? Why is it useful for them? So vegetable soups made without the addition of fat or thickening agents are useful in low fat, low cholesterol diets. Now, the nutritive value of a soup usually will depend on the ingredients that are used. A thick soup with meat or fish and plenty of vegetables will provide protein and fibre, whereas a thinner soup will have less vegetables, but it will have more water. Okay? Now, the characteristics, of a good soup. Okay? So what is a good soup? It should be free from grease, have a good colour and texture. It should taste of the main ingredients. So if you're making carrot and coriander soup, you will have other vegetables in it, but the main vegetable you taste should be carrot. It should have the right consistency. So if it's meant to be thick, it should be thick. If it's meant to be thin, it should be thin. Now, classification of soups. So we have thin soups and we have thick or thickened soups. So thin soups can be clear or they can be a broth. And the picture there shows a broth. And a thickened soup can be either thickened by a puree, which is a liquidizer or food processor, or a hand blender, or it can be thickened with a liaison, and a liaison is a thickening agent. So for example there, a roux. Okay, and we're going to be having a little look at a roux now in a moment. Now, convenience soups, then you can buy them dried, such as a packet soup, canned or tinned, and a coop chill food, which is cooked, it's chilled, and you just have to reheat it. You'll buy it in the cooler part of the fridge, not the freezer. Okay, but you can buy frozen soup as well. Okay, and there we have the advantages and disadvantages there of convenience soup. So yes, good variety, useful in emergencies, good for elderly people and people with less skills perhaps, but expensive, highly seasoned, artificial colours, etc. And then the garnishes for soup then, we have herbs. The main things I want to show you here are the grated cheese. So grated cheese goes on a French onion soup. And then croutons then are fried little cubes of bread. Now accompaniments then served alongside. So Melba toast there, that's it in the picture. Okay, very thin slices of toasted bread. You could also serve garlic bread or a French baguette or any buns. Now, sauces are a well-flavoured liquid. They can be sweet or savoury. Now, let's have a little look at sauces, please. So you can go down through that yourself. They're used to add variety, etc. But we're going to look here at the classification of sauces. A roux sauce. Now, a roux sauce is where you have equal amounts of fat and flour, and this is used for thickening a soup as well. So you would put 25 grams of fat into a saucepan, cook it on a low heat, melt it on a low heat rather. Then you would add your 25 grams, so equal amount of flour. And that is what's used as a basis in a soup and a sauce for thickening. Okay, and you can make a white sauce by adding milk to that. You can make a cheese sauce by adding milk and then just adding grated cheese at the end, parsley sauce. And then you also have different sauces like egg-based sauces. Hollandaise and mayonnaise and custard are egg-based sauces. Sweet sauces such as chocolate or caramel or butterscotch. Fruit sauces such as applesauce served with pork. Cranberry sauce served with turkey. Orange sauce served with duck. Okay, cold sauces then, mint, French dressing, tartar and horseradish. Don't forget your mint is served with lamb and horseradish is served with roast beef. And then you have miscellaneous sauces such as bread sauce served with chicken, tomato sauce, barbecue sauce. Okay, and we have a little slide here then on roux sauces. Okay, so getting back to that again, equal amounts of fat and flour and varying amounts of liquid. So when you're making a sauce, and it's a roux sauce. So a white sauce is a roux sauce. Okay, a cheese sauce is a roux sauce. You will see all sauces start with the 25 grams of fat and the 25 grams of flour. And you melt the fat, butter or margarine. You add your flour on a low heat. For 3 minutes, you will cook that out. So the starch grains will start to swell and burst. Then you take it off the heat and you add your liquid. Now you will need this information for the last part of your Learning Stop worksheet to explain how a sauce is made, a roux sauce. So you add your liquid very slowly. So if you are having a pouring sauce, that obviously is the thinner one. So you'll have the most liquid in that, 500 millilitres. If it's a panade or a binding sauce used to bind ingredients like maybe smoked coli and pasta in a pie, a fish pie or a fish pasta bake, it'll be very thick. If it's a coating sauce like for cauliflower and cheese or on top of carrots or on top of leeks, you might have a white sauce. If it's coating, it will have less liquid than the pouring, but a little bit more than the binding, so 250 mils. So it's just the liquid quantity that changes. So you add your liquid very slowly off the heat. When all your liquid is added in, you bring it to the boil and the starch grains will swell and burst and absorb that liquid and it will thicken your sauce. And that's called gelatinization. And that is very important for the last sheet of your Learning Stop. Okay? And last of all then is your characteristics of a good sauce. So a good sauce should be well flavoured, a good colour and texture. Don't say it should be thick or it should be thin, because it should be whatever it's supposed to be. Free from grease, and it should be cooked properly. Okay, thank you, and I'll see you next week.